In this progression, you're actually going to be able to use 2/3 of what you learned in the previous lesson, because the only difference between this progression and the previous one is that our D is not major, it's D minor. So that really puts everything within one key, the key of F. So this lesson is going to go a little faster. I know the previous one was a bit tedious and overwhelming, but let's look at the information we have for this particular progression. The progression is D minor, B flat over D, and C over D. All three of those chords reside within the key of F. The D minor would be the 6th chord, the B flat would be the 4, and the C would be the 5. You can see that on Appendix B. Just dial them up and you'll see everything. So let's listen to the progression one time, the bass drums and rhythm guitar. Sounds really familiar, doesn't it? It's one of the most common progressions you're going to encounter in pop music, rock, okay? So this one warrants some serious study, since you're going to deal with it on a regular basis. Let's look at our chart. The D minor, D Aeolian, because it's mode 6, so the parent is F major, and you have that in diagram 3A. The red notes give you the notes in the arpeggio, root, flatted 3rd, and 5th. And then the remaining 4 tones give you your entire D Aeolian mode, which is also called natural minor or relative minor, pure minor. Then we go to the B flat over D. Now this is where the same information you had in the second progression, the previous one, applies. You're in B flat Lydian, so all the same stuff. I don't need to go over it, right? We have the same arpeggios, pentatonics, all of that stuff. And the C over D, we're viewing it as a C add 9 in 3rd inversion. So you're thinking C mixed Lydian. You could also think of this C over D. If you were to put a flatted 3rd in there, it'd be a D minor 11. So it's a D minor 11 with no flatted 3rd. Think of it this way. Here's a D minor chord. You lower the 3rd and 4th strings, and then you have that F to E move, so that's why you have 2 options of the way you think about that C over D. You can think C mixed Lydian, which is reflected in diagram 3C, or you can think D Aeolian, which is reflected in diagram 3D. Notice that in those 2 diagrams, you have the same red notes, but the numbers change. That's because you're either thinking of C as the root, thinking off the numerator of the slash chord, the C over D, or you're thinking off the bass note, so you're thinking of it as a D minor 11th with no flatted 3rd. So D becomes 1 instead of 2. 2 ways to think about the same thing. You pick and choose which you like. They both have their merits. Well, let's talk about soloing over this. Now, this progression lends itself extremely well to horizontal soloing, just with the minor pentatonic and the blues scale. Let's play against that track. I'm just going to use the same scales that you had before, and you can see these in diagrams 3E through 3J. We're just playing in the minor pentatonic scale, and I'll stay up there in 10th position, and we'll use a little bit of the blues scale. But remember, I still want to apply that principle of targeting roots and fifths and any other tones, thirds if available, of the prevailing chords. Let me play a little bit, and then we'll talk about how to get more solid on top of the chords. So that was just like a burning kind of lead, rock lead, just using the minor pentatonic. Easy stuff, and it's fun for all of us, right? You don't have to think very much, you just feel it. But let's look at how we can get more vertical. Just as before, whether you're on D major or D minor, meaning the chord you're playing over, you have root, fifth, root, fifth, root. So I have those really strong tones while the D minor chord's in play. Then when we go to the B flat chord, I then have the following tones. The Ds then become the thirds of the B flat chord. The Fs are the fifths. So I'm I'm throwing the B flat in there. Leave that out for now. Okay, so you have those notes that are coming. There's your B flat arpeggio based off the C form. So you're saying 5, 3, skip the 1, 5, 3, skip the 1, 5, 3. Then when the C chord comes around, what do I have? Well, I have fifth root. That's coming right out of your D form C chord right there. I'm going to solo against that same track again, track 3, and I'm going to target just roots and fifths of the chords, except for that B flat chord. I have a third and a fifth available. Okay, real simple. Just going to play some notes. Very elementary, but then I'll use that. So that, especially if I'm playing slow and I'm not shredding, I'm not, blazing about, and not playing so much in a traditional blues song. All those standard blues licks that reside in the minor pentatonic. If I'm not using that approach, and I want to sound lyrical in that rock sound, this is how you approach that. Okay, so that means that in this area, I've covered those notes. You can see them in your diagrams. After you've practiced in this area for a while and you're comfortable and you can weave back and forth between just sounding bluesy and targeting those tones, apply that same principle to the remaining 4 areas. Remember, you have 5 areas on the fingerboard where your pentatonic scales reside. So that would be horizontal soloing, and it's quasi-vertical in the sense that you're staying within one scale, but you're still looking for chord tones and strong things that will help you define, like you're locking up with the chords. Well, let's look at how we would approach soloing if we were using a vertical soloing approach with pentatonic scales. We would use that same D minor pentatonic on top of the D minor. But then when we go to the B flat chord, we need to go to a B flat major pentatonic. Now this is a different area than what we were demonstrating before. On the previous progression, you had D major, then B flat major, and C major. So we had our scales pretty much in the 7th and the 8th position. Of course, we can play them anywhere. Let's review what you'd have for here. You have the D minor pentatonic, 6-string root pentatonic, or right on top of your D minor, E minor form, right? Then for the B flat chord, you're going to go, here is your C chord, C form of a B flat chord, so your arpeggio and your pentatonic are right there. You can see that in diagram 3L. Then if you look at diagram 3M, you will see that for your C major pentatonic, you're going to have a C chord with the D form, so it'd be the 2nd string root pentatonic. And that's how you would approach soloing using a vertical approach with pentatonics. Minor pentatonic over a minor chord, major pentatonic over a major chord. So I'm going to finish this segment of this lesson by playing over the track using this vertical soloing approach with the pentatonic scales. Let's approach this progression in terms of vertical soloing using arpeggios. If you go back and look at diagrams 3A, 3B, and 3C, you will clearly see the arpeggios for the triads, the D minor, the B flat, and the C. Let's solo over the track in that same general area and just use arpeggios. And I'll play very slowly, and I'll use some sequential ideas where I stay close to the same notes, sometimes share common tones and things like that. Just the arpeggios.